I'm Matthew Reederer with success stories.
Yes, we can, and no, we can. Yes, we can, and why can't we if we wanna? Yes, we can.
I know we can make it work.
That we can.
I know we can make it if we try.
Oh, yes, we can, and no, we can. Yes, we can. Great gosh almighty, yes, we can, and no, we can.
My guest, Anthony Laboa, is the mechanic and designer of The Last Exile, the famous airship which is now chartering flights over the Romania Mountains in Venezuela. Anthony, thanks for joining us here on the program.
Hello, how's it going?
It's great. You designed The Last Exile, which is an airship, and maybe our listeners don't know what that is. Can you describe that?
So, to be technical about this machine, it's actually considered a dirigible, but it actually splits the definition. A blimp is something that has no reinforcement. It's just like an air balloon. A dirigible is like what you saw with the Hindenburg, a giant framed machine that was designed for catering flights with many passengers. And what we have is something in between. It has a partial frame on the front, so it's allowed to go faster. And it also carries large passenger numbers, but it's a little bit more sturdy and well-designed than a blimp.
It's more sturdy and well-designed than a blimp. So
And can travel at far higher speeds.
So what speeds are we talking about here with an airship?
Well, this airship is actually designed to be able to run on no emissions. So most of the time it runs at very low speeds, but it's capable of top speeds of up to 60 miles per hour.
Okay. Wow. And so the Last Exile is the only airship that's been built? Is it a prototype, or how would you call it?
It's pretty much a prototype. I mean, me and my pilot, who is normally the person who would be doing this interview, Gail Forcewind, have been working on this project for several decades, and we dreamt of it long ago after watching a movie, the David Attenborough a documentary with who's that German film guy?
Werner Herzog?
With Werner Herzog. It's called White Diamond. It was very interesting.
And so you saw an airship in that movie, and then were inspired to create this airship yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And after having seen the beautiful plateau of the mountain of Romania, we were inspired to allow people to cater flights there. We knew that there had to be a market for somebody to fly up to the mountains, because there it's a beautiful place.
So what is it about this place that makes it so beautiful? Why do you charter flights there specifically?
The reason why we're able to charter flights here specifically is because we're able to create enough interest. It's one of the most beautiful sites in the world. It is a island that exists above the mountains, and that is pretty much only accessible to helicopter, airship, or it's totally inaccessible to a plane, because it's so small, and it's has one of the greatest biodiversities of any high alpine ecosystem. And
Amazing.
it's not really alpine because there's no trees. It's just a plateau in the sky.
Amazing.
With waterfalls all around it.
So what advantages do an airship have over, say, a helicopter?
An airship has great advantages over a helicopter. Helicopters are incredibly inefficient, especially an airship the way that we have designed it. It has no emissions. Because it generally travels at a slow speed, it uses very little energy and is able to actually travel from its envelope, the energy stored in the device used to make it float.
So the envelope is the device used to make it float, the balloon part of the airship.
And to make it safe, we have to make there be no combustion cycles inside of the. There's nothing burning inside of our airship.
And why can't you have anything burning inside of your airship?
Well, we made the balloon out of hydrogen, which is commonly known to be the gas that was in the Hindenburg.
That seems
during its
crazy.
Event.
Why not use helium?
Hydrogen has half the density of helium. It weighs half as much, so you can actually carry twice the passenger load for the weight and gas that you have to carry.
Interesting. So you use an engine with zero combustion cycles, meaning that what propels this?
It's all steam powered, actually.
It's all steam powered.
It uses turbines and steam power, and that's why we're able to use water as our energy source. We actually collect the energy locally.
So you use water as an energy source. So how do you create the steam? What heats the water that you use?
We actually use parabolic reflectors located on the plane,
Okay.
as well as the energy stored in the envelope for going at high speeds. And what we have is essentially a very slow steam combustion cycle that turns props in our prop tunnel that essentially propels the plane forward. And because of the design of our prop tunnel, it's one of the most efficient ways of moving a large mass through a lot of air at one point in time.
That's excellent. So, how large is your airship? I mean, how big a mass are we talking about here?
It's actually about 500 feet long, which is relatively small for a large passenger airship, but the cabin is larger than most, and it comes down off of the airship and has 6 levels.
6 levels, and you designed the cabin yourself.
Yes, well, it's been a group effort,
Okay.
and then it's actually been quite a large endeavor because we had to have sponsors to be able to build such a large airship.
Really?
Yes.
So there's 6 levels to it, and what are some of the things available here on your airship that you wouldn't have available, say, on a plane or something like that?
So on 5 of the cabin and passenger levels, there are sleeping quarters, and these sleeping quarters are some of the finest sleeping quarters you could ever find. There's rarely more than 100 passengers on a plane, so over 6 levels, every passenger has, a relatively large suite. And there's also a main ballroom with a fine eating bar and also a fine food court. And you can find any amenity on this airship that you would have it in normal life. There's a Starbucks.
Wow.
There is internet. Always. Of course, you would have to have wireless internet.
Of course.
And because it's a half-year venture, and most of our people being business people, we have to have the available resources for them.
Wow, this is really something. And so, obviously, you cater to a high-end clientele
Oh, yes, indeed.
with the Last Exile. Tell me about the name. Where does the name Last Exile come from?
Actually, the Last Exile is part of what inspired us to make this ship. To be honest, it's based off of an anime that has airships that are amazing, and they exist in a world that is only exists above the cloud. Any place below cloud level is so filled with noxious gases that people could not exist below those levels.
Wow. Huh. That's very
Of course,
interesting.
our airship is more bound by the physics of our own dimension, so we have to apply to those.
Yeah. And so what challenges were you able to overcome? It's been a dream of folks for a long time to make an airship. And how did you overcome the challenges that have been associated with that?
Well, there's a few interesting aspects of our airship. One of which is that it's significantly lighter than most airships because prior to the invention of this airship, most airships that were technically dirigibles had to have a fully integrated frame structure so they could travel at high speeds.
Uh-huh.
And we're using new materials and technologies. We're able to distribute the load over the whole envelope so that it not only gives us lift, but it also is able to travel at relatively high speeds without needing to be wholly framed.
Wow, that's really exciting. How many trips have you taken down to the Roraima Mountains?
We cater a trip once a year, and I've been doing this for roughly 4 years now. We
Okay.
are now just reaching profitability.
I see. And so you've been to the Roraima Mountains 4 times. Tell me about something that you've seen there. What have you discovered or experienced on these trips?
Well, to be quite honest, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. You'll find every kind of flora that you've ever seen anywhere. And not anywhere. You'll find flora that you've never seen anywhere, and flora that you can see pretty much anywhere else in the world. It combines many aspects of different altitudes and climates because it's one of the wettest and highest points in the earth, and because of the high rainfall, there's a lot of biodiversity.
Interesting. Wow. So is it only plant life, or is there animal life as well?
There's animal life, but it's relatively small. Nothing larger than insects.
I see. And it's good views here from your
It's
airship?
one of the most beautiful views. Well, the whole trip is quite beautiful because we only travel across land in the event of any sort of disadvantageous event. But when we are traveling when you're in the Roraima Mountains, you can see for miles around you, but it's all cloud cover, and you can even see over the cliff of the edge and see waterfalls falling down into the clouds.
Wow, that sounds really beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, of course. It was nice being with you, sir.
My guest, Anthony Luboa, is the designer and mechanic for the airship The Last Exile.